Hi everybody， 你坐地铁的时候，在车上还是排队，你会干什么呢？大部分的人他们会把他们的手机拿出来开始玩。But the fact is, recent evidence, recent research has shown that this is not the best thing to do. In fact, a lot of scientific research now shows that boredom is in fact not only good for you, but could help you achieve a better future. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's video, why you should embrace boredom and not fear it. The first is very simple. Your brain needs a rest from stimulation. I don't need to talk about this too much because it makes logical sense. If you're always stimulating your brain, it's not very healthy. Boredom is a time, just like sleep, where your brain can repair mental connections and can just relax. The second reason is to do with creativity. Firstly, let's examine what is boredom. Boredom is not you have absolutely nothing to do. Usually it's just a choice between two tasks you dislike doing or periods of or activities of low mental engagement. However, it has been quite strongly demonstrated now that periods of low mental engagement help foster creativity in the brain. In fact, this time the brain uses to daydream or to wander is where some of your best ideas can come up. Research has shown that after a period of boredom, people are much more creative than if they'd used that period and filled it with other activities. So if you have a difficult work problem or an idea you want to progress, actually boredom is really good for you because it's during that period where your brain will subconsciously work on all the problems in your life and perhaps come out with solutions. It's no coincidence that many great writers and scientists, the eureka moment came when they were doing something completely unrelated to the task in hand. So to be creative, you need boredom. You need to give your brain space to process things subconsciously. When you stand in a queue or you sit on DTA and you're just playing on your phone, you're filling up your brain with garbage and you're pushing out all that space that it could be used to do something wonderful. And that's the true cost of filling boredom with other activities. But there is a third reason that's also important, and that's a sense of dopamine detox. The problem is that as you become less able to cope with periods of space or low mental activity, boredom, and you try and fill it up with more and more stimulation, the bar for that stimulation continually rises. That means your brain is always addicted to some form of stimulation, and it puts you in a very difficult spot. I've told this before, all of us have to cope with what we fear or difficult circumstances. We have to have those coping mechanisms. That means that if you don't have a coping mechanism of boredom, you always have to fill it with mobile phone or some other form of stimulation. Well, then you're very vulnerable because as soon as your phone runs out of battery or you're actually in a place where you can't get that stimulation, your whole world comes crashing down. Also, constant stimulation of the brain means that other experiences become less satisfying because you're always feeding it. It's just like if you have a nice meal. If you have a nice meal maybe once in a week, it tastes delicious. But if you're eating rich foods 3 times a day, it actually doesn't taste delicious anymore. It actually starts to be quite unpleasant. And the same is true with the brain and these dopamine hits you want to give it. The true up periods will only be good if you've had periods of calm, contemplation, or even periods of low mental activity. That's a little bit called dopamine detox. And that's why you shouldn't always seek to stimulate your brain at all times. So next time you are queuing for something, next time 你在电梯或者在地铁 and you have nothing else to do, don't cave into that impulse to take out your phone and start to mindlessly swipe. Sit there with your thoughts. Let your mind wander. And then you'll see the great benefits of letting your mind have a rest, the creativity that comes from periods of low mental activity, and finally, the ability to appreciate and enjoy other things in life because you're not constantly overstimulating your brain. There's a famous English phrase called, don't just sit there, do something. For the purposes of this video, don't just do something, sit there.